So this morning I woke up and I was like, first thing that came into my mind was, what am I going to do a YouTube video on today? Because it's on my daily tasks and rituals and to-dos. I've got a little list that I make every day and I stick it up on the wall and I tick it off because I am a woman that likes to have a list that ticks off and I get a wee dopamine hit every time I tick off something that I've done. It reminds me of being in school and getting straight A's on my exams and top marks in class, and you get that little validation for being the good girl and being intelligent and clever, and that has carried through to adulthood for me. And what I've done is I've created a system where I give myself that little dopamine hit every single day by having a to-do list up on my wall that I tick at the end of each day to say that I've done all the things. Now, the things that are on my to-do list are sometimes a bit different from what's probably on a lot of people's to-do lists. I'll just tell you some of the stuff that's on mine today is have joy, eat good food, movement is on every day, drink water. And I drink my water out of a wine glass because it's the biggest glass in the house and because I no longer drink wine and sometimes I miss it, so I just drink water instead. Create, make a YouTube video, go for an eye test. We'll talk about that in a minute because my eyesight is going rapidly downhill and that's causing me to have feelings. Go and get cottage pie ingredients because I'm making a cottage pie for my friend tonight and some other stuff. Bake bread, gym, call later on with another friend. So I have this little to-do list and I put it up on my wall. It's not on my wall today, it's next to me so that I could read it out to you. All over the wall over here that you can't see is just covered with weeks and weeks worth of to-do lists, and then they get changed, they get taken down, new ones get put up. There's things that I do for my business, there's wins on the wall, like we're writing on bits of paper on the wall to keep ourselves going so that it's up around us all the time. So this morning when I woke up and I knew that I had on my to-do list for today, I knew I had YouTube videos, and I'll tell you the process of what happened when I woke up. So inside of me and my psyche is the 10-year-old version of me. Every single version of me that's come before lives inside my psyche, and every single version of me that's still to come lives inside my psyche, which is really, really good for us because it means we can access the 10-year-old version of us and the 90-year-old version of us. And the 90-year-old version of us is filled with wisdom and the 10-year-old is filled with joy, okay? So what other things that the 10-year-old has is fear inside her system. And my fear as a 10-year-old was getting things wrong because I was the clever one in the family. Sometimes I wonder, do members of my family ever see these videos and be like, yes, so you were, Ali. But the perception that I have of my childhood is that I was deemed the clever one in the family, and that subconsciously created by the people around about me, my family and also my teachers and stuff, subconsciously, never intentionally, created this little version of me that was terrified of getting things wrong. And so in order to stay safe within the tribe, I would have to get good grades in school, know lots and lots of information, and also impart loads and loads of information. So I come from a big family. I've got 3 brothers and a sister, and we're all got big personalities. And I always, as I grew up, I was like, well, if you didn't talk loud, you didn't get heard, right? So we would all, be scrambling to speak to our parents on top of one another. And Paul said this and Martin said that, and we'd all, me. We were all like constantly quite feral and chatty and loud and funny. Like my brothers and my sister are the funniest people I've ever met. Like their chat is just so good. And because of that, we all had our place in the family that later became our place in society, that was conditioned into us all, and it was conditioned into my parents and their parents and their parents. To behave in a certain way so that you stay safe in your first tribe and then in society. And mine was to be intelligent. So when I am placed in a situation where I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm not what I deem to be really, really good at it, or I need more practice at it, or something that I've not really done lots of in the past, then the 10-year-old version of me starts manifesting thoughts within my system of things like, I don't know what to talk about. I'm going to go on the camera and it's going to be terrible. I'm going to stumble over my words, which, by the way, I've done 20 times since this video started. It's just going to be edited out. I'm going to go on the camera and I'm not going to know what to talk about, and how do I combat this? So this is a little 10-year-old version of me that's scared to sit in front of the camera and scared to talk and scared to get it wrong and scared to say things that other people disagree with and they might attack me for. And I am constantly vigilant of her and constantly aware that as much as I can be, that she is creating some of the thoughts that are manifested within my system. So the physical manifestation of your feelings are your thoughts. So the thoughts are created from the feelings, and the feelings are quite often shoved into the subconscious. That is often we did it in childhood, so it's our inner child. So that's why I refer to that version of me as 10-year-old Ali. So 10-year-old Ali doesn't want, I'm going to retract that. 10-year-old Ali wants to be seen, right? Because when I was 10 years old, I was, I had lots and lots of energy. I wanted people to praise me. I wanted people to see me. I think I spoke about this before, where I remember like dancing for my granny. I had this wee Liverpudlian granny, and she was quite tough and very loving, but really quite tough as well. And she said to me one time, if you were chocolate, you would eat yourself. And what she meant was you love yourself. And she came from a time and an era where having confidence was not seen as a good thing. So like me, I've got a 10-year-old little girl, and I want her to be that confident. I want her to think that she's so amazing that if she was chocolate, she would eat herself. My granny came from a different time and in a different place where that wasn't seen as a good thing. But what that instilled in me was it's okay, I want to feel confident. I want to say things. I want to the world to hear my voice. I want other people to hear my thoughts and my theories, but also that's not a good thing, and you shouldn't be too confident about that. And not just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. That was what I inferred from what she said, right? If you're chocolate, you would eat yourself is something not great. Which I'm like, if I was made of chocolate, I probably, let's be honest, I would probably nibble my finger or something, right? Um, I don't know. I just go down these tangents and I have no idea. Anyway, there's this 10-year-old version of me that wants to be seen and also is terrified of being seen and getting it wrong. So she presented this morning as soon as I opened my eyes, and I was sitting on the balcony, and I was like, what if I get it? What if I don't know what to say? What if I come on the video and I come on camera and I don't know what to say? And I could feel myself feeling quite hyped about it all morning. And then I was in the bedroom and I was like fixing my hair, and I was like, is this imposter syndrome? Is that what this is? That was just the question that I asked myself. So being the strange geek that I am, who absolutely loves words and grew up in a house where we only really had a dictionary to read. I would go to the library every week with my best friend and get point romance books and Babysitters Club books, and she would get point horror. And I would take the books home and read them, but in the house, we didn't have a lot of books. We had a dictionary, a big, huge thesaurus that my father got from somewhere, and I would read that and I would look up words, and I was kind of geeky like that. I was really, really interested in words, and I still am. I love writing. And just a side note on this, because I think it's important, is when I first started doing a lot of inner work on what I term as my healing journey on my wall in my bedroom, where I've got my morning formula written down. I'll talk about that in a minute as well. My healing journey, which is just the path to learning about myself and how the trauma that I had in childhood and adulthood caused me to go out into the world and cause chaos everywhere I went. So the healing journey in the beginning was looking at other people and blaming them over there, and then looking at myself and blaming myself, and then hopefully always getting to an equilibrium where they're not to blame and I'm not to blame. Everybody's just doing the best they can with what they have in every given situation. And in the beginning, when I first started down on this path, I wanted to blame my parents for absolutely everything that had gone wrong in my life, and wanted them just to be the villains of the story. And one of the things that I kind of clung on to for quite some time was that I grew up in a house with no books. And I would meet people who grew up in a house filled with books, and it was a given that they were going to go to university. It was never in question that they would go and get a degree and have a good career and a good job and a good life and lots of money. And I was quite resentful that I did not grow up in that situation. And then it took me some time to get to this place where I was, and I said it to some friends recently, where I was like, I was talking about my childhood and I was like, we didn't have any books. And I was like, but what we did have was we had music. Um, I might actually get a little bit teary while I say this because it's actually just past the anniversary of my mother's death. My mother died 7 years ago on Thursday, and it took me quite some time to realise that we didn't grow up with books in the house, but what we did grow up was we grew up with music, and I took it for granted that my mother has had a very, very beautiful singing voice that unfortunately was not passed down on to me, but was passed to my little sister. And one of my brothers, the middle brother, I believe, is a very, very good singer. My oldest daughter is a very good singer. They were very musical. My dad plays guitar very, very well. And they would have what they called sessions in the kitchen every night where they would listen to Irish folk music. My dad would play guitar, my mum would sing. And I spent so long in the beginning of this healing phase being resentful that we didn't have books. I didn't realise the things that we did have, which was a wall full of CDs and cassettes of music. We were encouraged to listen to music as loud as possible because my dad loved listening to the music turned up really loud. Um, and we had the absolute blessed luck to have my mother singing all the time. Sometimes she'd had a few vodkas when she was singing, but which only just made her put more heart into it. Um, and she would sing, most nights they would end up singing and listening to music. And it took me such a long time to let go of the resentment of the no books and embrace the luck and the fortune of having music, because it's something in adulthood that I really love is music. And I can't sit here and, you know, tell myself that I pulled myself up from the bootstrings with no books in the house, and I learned French and I learned Spanish and I studied English at university, and not also be like, well, I also have a love of music that comes from my parents. And I think when anybody starts down this path in life where we are trying to clear the repressed emotions of childhood, and then someone like me comes along with a mirror and goes, oh, look, what can you see in there? This is why you behave like this because of this thing that happened. And the propensity is to just only blame on the outside. And if you come along on this journey with me, then we get from a place of blame, from external judgment and internal judgment to a place of no judgment, which is a really, really good and peaceful place to be. And as always, like, I'm going to say that that's not where I live all the time. I do sometimes go back into that place where I internalize or I externalize shame in the form of judgment. But most of my life, I live in a judgment-free zone where I don't blame others out there or myself for the circumstances. I've taken personal power and personal responsibility for my own circumstances, and know that every creation and the physical manifestation is a shadow of something that I have a previously held beliefs that I have held. A previously held belief that I have held. I mean, that's quite a lot of use of the word held. These are the kind of things that I worry about making videos. You're going to say the same word 10 times in a row and it's going to sound silly. And I'm just like, okay, right, that's fine. Guess what? The world is still turning. So I don't know why I went down that tangent with my mum with the singing, but I think it was important to talk about my mother because she's been gone for 7 years and I love her very much and I miss her very much. And she was a wonderful singer, and we didn't have books, but we for sure had music, and it's just important to remember that. So if I take it back to where I was, which was talking about imposter syndrome, and is this imposter syndrome? And I know how I got there because I said that I used to read the thesaurus. So this morning when I was looking in the mirror and I was like, is this what imposter syndrome is? Is this what I have? And I came and looked up the meaning of the word imposter because that's what I like to do. I like words and I like to look up the definition of them. So I looked up the meaning of the word imposter, and it says I'm going to read it actually because I think I don't want to not do it justice. A person who pretends to be somebody else, even through means of disguise, deceiving others by knowingly falsifying one or more aspects of their identity. And that sounds non-beneficial, right? A person who falsifies something, who deceives, like the words like this are very emotive. And I was like, okay, so if I'm an imposter sitting here today, then what deception am I trying to give to anybody that watches this video? One thing that I don't think that people will be deceived into thinking is that I am good at videos, right? They're not going to think that. And I remember saying it to someone one time, like, I think people think my life's really well put together and it's not. And he was like, no, they don't. And he just looked at me like I was an absolute idiot. And it's like, Ali, no one thinks your life's put together, honestly, because you just tell people like what's happening. Um, what if I'm an imposter, it's like what information am I trying to falsify or deceive people into believing when I make these videos? Because that's the definition of imposter. So do I have imposter syndrome? And when I think about making these YouTube videos, I think about people like Chris Williamson from Modern Wisdom, and I'm trying to think of someone else who I've watched recently that's really, really polished in their way that they present themselves, and I am anything but polished. And the way that I present myself on camera, you should see the parts that have to get edited out. Like my friend edits my videos and she's like, she just says it's the highlight of her week. Just she sits there watching me just talk to myself, get up, walk away, have a little story to myself, wait till I move this, wait till I move that, and it's all caught on camera and then it has to be edited out. And I don't watch the videos on purposely, don't watch the videos because I don't want to put myself off doing any more. So she edits them and she puts them on, and I pretend that they don't exist because this is what's best for me at the moment, is just to pretend that this YouTube channel doesn't exist till I get better at it. So I don't think that I come across as polished. I think that the more I do it, the more polished I will get. And so then it's like, right, so what is it? Why am I here? Why am I talking on these videos? What is it that I have to say that I believe that would be beneficial for other people to hear? And the answer to that is I'm here talking on these videos because my body told me to. Okay, so I sit in silence, I meditate in silence, I go in more baths than any other human I know. I go in the sea. I cleared my body physically through my diet. My diet is very, very natural. I work out, I don't drink alcohol, I don't eat processed foods or refined sugar. And I did all of this for one reason only, to be able to hear clearly the messages from my body. That's it, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to clearly hear what my body has to say. And my belief is that you can't always hear the clear manifestation of your soul when it is being numbed by an imbalance in things like food, and those can be imbalanced in both ways, both in lack of food and too much processed foods. I trust the wisdom of my body. I trust what I hear. My body tells me to eat certain foods, and I go and eat those foods. I have to understand when I'm at my cycle, and I always say this to my clients: your body never really tells you to go and eat Ben and Jerry's. That's usually your ego that's telling you to do that, and you're looking for comfort. That does not mean that you don't eat Ben and Jerry's and you're not comforted by it, but it's also just the conscious awareness of why you're eating Ben and Jerry's. It's not because your body is craving it. Our bodies don't generally crave things that are relatively new in evolution. So you're looking for comfort and you're looking for it in a tub of ice cream, and that's more than fine. And if you're getting the comfort from that and you feel okay and then go on with your day, then nothing needs to change there. For me, that certainly wasn't the case. I was looking for comfort in food and alcohol and finding it momentarily and then feeling like shit afterwards. So when I made the decision the decision was made externally for me. I said in an earlier video where I couldn't physically force myself to eat processed foods or refined sugar. My body was literally craving things like vegetables and chicken and fish and fruit and all natural foods. And then when I had the epiphany of being like, this is the thing that I've been trying to do and I keep spiraling in and out of for 6 years, is that I keep going back to using food for comfort instead of staying on the path of using food as a source of joy and fuel in my system. So I cleared my energetic system, I cleared my physical system for one reason only, to hear the wisdom of my body over anything else, because I believe that women's bodies are the wisest instrument on the planet. And if I believe that about every woman sitting in front of me, then I for sure have to believe it about myself. And I have to trust the wisdom of my own body and trust the messages that I get through my body. And one of the messages that I get constantly is make YouTube videos, right? And I've wrestled with it. I've been like, is that 10-year-old Ali looking for validation and looking for attention and looking for love? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get that from my 7 subscribers on YouTube, to be perfectly honest. But I follow the wisdom that I hear through my body. And the thing that I hear often is make YouTube videos, speak on YouTube, tell people your theories and your thoughts, even if they're a wee bit out there, especially if they're a wee bit out there. So today I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I am here to talk about something. And already I've spoke about the healing journey and imposter syndrome, and I'm not sure what else is going to come out while I sit here. But one thing I know is that I'm not trying to deceive anybody into thinking that I am in any way polished and sitting on YouTube being polished, because if I was, then I'm not doing a very good job at it, am I? So 10-year-old Ali constantly worries about doing these videos, as I don't want to come across to anybody as being like, I'll just tell you the word that I heard when I said that, because I tried to make a nicer word out of it. And then I'm like, no, just say the word that you heard. I don't want to come across as being wanky, right? That's what I heard. So I don't want to come across as one of these people that's like, you shouldn't eat sugar and you should be aware of what you put in your mouth. And certainly in the past, and I've spoke about this before, I ran, women's fitness programs and fitness behavior change coach and diet programs, and I definitely had a huge part of that was in my toolkit was, this is what you should eat, this is what you shouldn't eat. I am not here to tell anybody what they should or should not eat. If someone was to come and ask for my coaching or ask for my guidance or ask for my help with anything, then what I do is I tell them what I've done and how it's benefited me. And I have a system where people can also follow the same steps that I followed in the beginning and that I follow now. And I think that I have a fear of doing videos about this because I don't want to come across as someone who's telling people what they should and shouldn't eat, and come across in a way that people might think that I'm being judgmental or authoritarian. And rather than just being like, by the way, I've done this thing and it works really, really well for me as a woman, and I would love it if other women felt as good as what I feel. So one of my clients at the moment, we were having a coaching session, and she said to me that she just had the happiest day of her life, and she listed the things that happened on the happiest day of her life, and one of them was that she drove a car for the first time in 15 years. She had a driving license, and she's never drove a car since she was like 17 or something, or 18, and she had made this decision that she was going to move to another country and find a relationship and a wife and have a family. And she was like, well, if I have a family, then I can't be driving them about on my scooter. I need to have a car. And I was like, right, okay, so what's the first step? And the first step that she took was she was going to get behind the wheel of a car. So it's the next first step. So we arranged for her to get behind the wheel of a car, which she did. And then she had some other things that happened that day that were relatively small in the grand scheme of things. We think of joy as, the day that you give birth, or the day you get married, or the day that you get that big promotion in work, or you graduate. And it's generally, if you can find joy in the small things that happen every day, then when the big things happen, it's, your mind is blown. So the other thing was, I think she said that she listened to her favourite band. She listened to their new album and she really, really loved the first track. So she listened to it more than once. And when she was telling me about the joy that she found in these little things, she started to cry with happiness. and she hadn't cried. She told me later that she hadn't cried for 7 years, and that I think it was 7 years at her grandfather's funeral, and now she's reached a stage so that she's able to cry with happiness over listening to a song or getting behind the wheel of a car for the first time in quite some time. And I put it to her that the reason that she was able to feel the joy and feel the happiness to the extent where it caused her to actually release the energy through her body through tears is because of the other steps that she had taken to get to that place. And those other steps, one of them was clearing of the physical body through her diet and sitting in silence, sitting in the bath and hearing the messages that came through her body in the bath, and then taking action on those messages that she heard. And some of them were scary, what she deemed as scary and challenging, but she did them anyway. You know, it was having tough conversations with people that she loves and telling them things about herself that she'd never said before, and being authentic and being seen and being real. And because she was able to do those things, that the messages came through her body. I did not give her the messages, they came through her body through sitting in silence, going in the sea, going in a bath, doing meditation, doing journaling, all these little things that enabled her to actually be able to hear the voice of her soul. Because she was able to do them, she was then able to feel the joy and the happiness of these minuscule little things that a lot of people take for granted. And that I want all women and men to have that level of joy in their bodies. Like, I know that that's there for the taking. I talk about this a lot in these videos where I sit on my balcony in the morning with a coffee and 2 squares of dark chocolate, and I smell the dark chocolate before I eat it, and I feel a lot of delicious, juicy, sexual energy flowing through my whole system, gathering in my sexual region over the smell of dark chocolate. I want everyone to be able to feel their bodies in that way, like to be able to feel the sexual energy flow through your system from simply being in touch with your physical senses. The smelling of dark chocolate before I've even put it in my mouth, I feel the joy of smelling it, and then I get to eat it, and that's even more orgasmic. I, I want everyone to be able to feel that. Like, I want that for everyone. I want it for people watching this. I want it for people in my program. I want it for my daughters in the future. I want it for every woman walking the face of this earth. I always say that I want it for women, or I speak about women specifically because I specifically coach women, and I am a woman, so only I can talk about how women can feel in their system. I can't talk about how men would feel sniffing chocolate because I'm not a man. And I don't know if I know any men that would sit in the balcony and sniff chocolate in the morning. I've not actually met any other women that do it, but I have to tell you that it's really, really fun. And it's the highlight of my morning, and I do it every single morning before I start my day. It's one of my rituals that I do, and I do these rituals because of other steps that I've taken. And one of those steps was reducing, first of all, refined sugar and processed foods out of my diet, making sure I drink plenty of water, and then following the wisdom of my body for what to eat next. I am probably the fittest I've ever been, definitely the healthiest physically I've ever been, and the clearest energetically I've ever been, through clearing my system to be able to hear the wisdom of my body. I've got the same computer as every other woman on the planet. We all have access to this. I want you to be able to access it. I think so. If I take it back to where I was, one of the things that holds me back from making these videos is I don't want to sound judgmental or shameful and be like, you need to stop eating this, you need to do that. There's things that can be put in place that will give you a clear enough start to be able to hear your body. And honestly, if a woman sat in front of me and said, no, Ali, my body's asking for Ben and Jerry's, then I would be like, go and have the Ben and Jerry's, and then sit with a pen and paper afterwards and see how it makes you feel afterwards, see how it makes you feel while you're eating it, and see how it makes you feel afterwards. And if you feel great while you're eating it, and you feel great afterwards, and you feel great 90% of the time, then your body's wisdom is asking for Ben and Jerry's, and I stand corrected. I've never met a woman yet who tells me that they feel great afterwards when they eat something that is and I mean eating out of balance as well, like a whole tub of Ben and Jerry's, not just, you know, like a couple of a bowl full or whatever. And if you eat it every day, and if they eat processed foods every day and refined sugar every day, like, you don't need to be a dietitian or a nutritionist or a scientist to understand that that's not in balance for the human body. My imposter syndrome comes on in that I'm like, well, who am I to tell these people what to eat or what not to eat? And I don't. That's the thing. Like, at no point do I tell people what to eat. I tell them what I eat. I tell them the guidelines and the rituals that work for me. And if they decide to adopt them, then what happens is they start to hear the wisdom of their body. And then comes the adventurous part, because then they have to follow the wisdom of their body. And if their body tells them to take an action, they have to take the action, which I can't do for them. But all I do is I walk the path with them while they take the actions. I want all women to feel like this. I want all women to cry with joy at listening to their favourite album, or getting behind the wheel of a car, or smelling chocolate in their garden or on their balcony or at their kitchen table in the morning. I want women to feel the joy that I feel, that my clients feel, that my friends feel, in a prolonged state, not just a dopamine hit of I got a new client, I bought a new dress, I booked a 2-week holiday. It's like the joy that comes from everyday things. There is joy to be found every single day, if only we can be present enough in our body to feel it. And I think that in 2026, the society that's been created round about us makes it very, very difficult for us to be present in our body, because we walk around with these guys in our hand, and it makes it very difficult for us to be present enough in our body to feel the joy. And women are becoming more and more disconnected from it, more and more dissociated from it, and that's manifesting in things like entering the menopause earlier than what our ancestors did, and it's now called perimenopause. And it's like, well, this is a relatively new thing. Like, our mothers and their mothers and their mothers and their mothers did not suffer from, and I'll use the word suffer, perimenopause, because they also did not have the pressures on them that our generation has on us, which is social media is a huge one. Working full time, because of the economic society that we live in now, most women need to work full time rather than part time or not working at all. And also the fact that we are seen everywhere we go through social media. We've got more processed food on the shelves. There's more and more things that are putting women's bodies under pressure and allowing us to dissociate from the present reality and from the presence of being in our bodies and being able to feel what we're supposed to feel in that moment. So if we can't feel it, we're repressing it. But if we can't feel the fear that's supposed to get us to alchemize it into courage, if we can't feel the fear because we don't want to feel the fear and we can't push through it to get to the next level of consciousness, then we also can't feel the joy. I was reading a Gabor Mate book recently, no, it wasn't, sorry, it was not. Sorry, Gabor Mate. I was listening to a Michael Singer book recently, and he said, if people say that you can only feel happiness if you also feel pain, don't listen to them. And I absolutely love Michael Singer, and I was like, I would challenge that, because it's not you only can feel happiness if you can feel pain. It's you only can feel if you can feel. Like, that's it. You only can feel if you can feel. So if you can't feel anything. You can't feel the joy and you can't feel the pain, because you've numbed yourself to not being able to feel anything. So if you can feel joy, then the flip side of that is at some point you're going to feel pain. And that's the return on investment of feeling joy, is that you're at some point going to feel pain. So what we do, and it's a very, very clever evolutionary process, is we've stopped ourselves from feeling pain, because we're like, oh, well, that doesn't feel good, I'm not going to do that. But what we've cut ourselves off from is being able to feel joy. And I want women to be able to feel joy more than anything. But I also know that in order to feel joy, you are going to feel pain. Like, if you're going to feel, you're going to feel, period, full stop. That's it. You're going to feel. And the joy far outweighs the pain. The joy far outweighs the grief, the sadness, the fear. And these emotions are in our bodies, and then they're out our bodies very, very quickly when we process them and let them go. And if we don't feel them, we're carrying them. Like I say to my sister all the time, if you're not crying, you're carrying, and it's heavy, put it down, and put it down by crying. My imposter syndrome is making me think 10-year-old Ali is manifesting her thoughts are, I'm not going to know what to say. I'm going to stumble over my words. I'm going to mispronounce words. My grammar's terrible because I was brought up in Scotland and we speak with different grammar to those brought up in the southeast of England. And I will come across as wanky because I sound like I'm preaching to people that they should give up sugar and give up processed foods when it's really not what I'm saying. I'm just telling people that this has been hugely beneficial for me. And so those are the manifestation, the thoughts that are manifested from 10-year-old Ali that lives inside of me that's like, don't do this thing because you're not good at it and you're not going to get praise for it and you're not going to get instant validation and gratification from it. So let's just not do it. And she's trying to keep me safe by telling me all the reasons why I shouldn't do the YouTube video, but it's on my to-do list. And I'm going to tick it because I've done the YouTube video. I've sat in front of the camera now for about 45 minutes. God only knows what it'll be chopped up into. But I'm here, I'm making the videos, and I will be back tomorrow. I didn't know I was going to say that, but I will be back tomorrow to create another video. And I will create, because that is what my body is asking me to do. And I will always listen to the wisdom of my body. And I want all women to be able to hear the wisdom of their body and to be able to trust the wisdom of their body as well. So thank you for listening, and I shall see you soon.